This episode is brought to you by Amika. The rules of smoothing frizz are simple and finite. Lock in moisture and lock out frizz for a salon perfect blowout with new Frizz Me Not Hydrating Anti-Frizz Treatment and Forget Frizz Anti-Frizz Shampoo and Conditioner. The result? A glossy, sleek blowout, like you just left the salon, no appointment required. Frizz Me Not Hydrating Anti-Frizz Treatment has so many benefits. My sister's obsessed. Amika kindly sent her some. She said her hairstylist, I'll actually post a text that she sent me after going to get her haircut because her hairstylist commented on the quality, thickness, smoothness of her hair from using soul food, from using Forget Frizz. And stay tuned for more later in the episode. Thanks to Amika for exclusively sponsoring this episode. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Be There in 5 podcast. I'm Kate Kennedy, your host. I have gotten some requests recently for this format, and Courtney Heath is always saying this is one of her favorite series, so who knows if I'll use this, but thinking about starting it now just in case. I used to do a series called Beth, A Week in the Life. Was that it? Was it? Now I don't even remember if it was, the name was modeled after Gilmore Girls, A Year in the Life, which was a weird title and was a weird reboot. Do you remember the Stars Hollow musical? Was that a fever dream? That was the only one Dan Palladino wrote. Anyway, let's not go off on that tangent. But the next couple weeks, I'll kind of be all over the place and thought maybe I'd report in real time. I don't bring this up to bum out the audience, to trigger anybody, but just to have it out there because it is what it is. And I'm trying to, as one Nora McInerney says, move forward with my grief instead of move on from it. I'm still kind of trying to navigate how to feel post-pregnancy loss. I think I'm still coming down from some hormones and the like. You know, I was very close to the safe zone, like 10 and a half, almost 11 weeks pregnant, and with a baby girl. And I've just, I'm not taking it well. I'm not taking it well. I'm not going to lie. Not that anybody would. But I'm just having trouble existing, minor details. And as, a millennial in an attempt to heal, the only way I know how is, of course, to eat, pray, love. And my mom's least favorite quote from my book, which was about when I went through a breakup, I would follow the EPL formula. And in that case, it was after somebody dumped me, I would barely eat and then pray to fall out of love, which unfortunately was true. But in this case, it's a bit different, maybe a little bit more heart-wrenching than a situationship putting me in the friend zone. If I'm being honest, I'm having kind of trouble eating. I've never been hungrier in my life than I was this past pregnancy. I mean, I've never spent more on Uber Eats. I've never had more meals during the day. It was like almost crazy, which is interesting because I was also very like morning sick. And by that, I mean all around the clock sick. And when I would, get sick after a meal, I was like, does that one count? And then I would just eat another. It was very confusing. Regardless, I need to eat food and taste things and just feel nourished and okay for one. This is the thing I was going to say that sounds weird, but do you know how when something happens, everything that reminds you of that thing kind of triggers you and makes you sad? So I'm a big fan of toast with butter and jam. And while I was pregnant, past many weeks, I would get so sick in the morning, and once I ate right when I woke up, I'd have to wake up in the middle of the night and have a snack because if I went too long without eating, I would feel really, really nauseous. And my husband was always making me my favorite thing in the world, which was sourdough toast with butter and a strawberry, raspberry, whatever, mixed fruit jam, maybe a preserve. R.I.P. to Blake Lively's problematic website, Preserve. Also, what did Meghan Markle say about jam? She thinks they're too sweet, so she only puts half the amount of sugar in hers. I've heard mixed reviews of her jam. I couldn't get my mitts on it. Only got the shortbread cookies. They were about $16. I think about $21 with shipping. I did make them, and they were, cookies. The flour sprinkles I don't think they did for me what they do for Meg, but it was worth a shot, and I'm glad for her that she has access to ample edible flours. Mine were limited to the tiny pack in those cookies, so I couldn't really experiment further. I'm looking forward to an as-ever restock. And anyway, what was I saying? Oh, just that even my favorite breakfast food, the idea of eating toast with butter and jam like makes me upset. Isn't that so weird? Like the idea of waking up and making it, I'm like, oh God, that's what I did when I was pregnant. And then I'm like jealous of that version of myself. And then I didn't know how good I had it. And then I'm mad at myself because I felt so badly. I wasn't very grateful. And, it's the whole thing. And it's like all from a piece of toast. Like, isn't like milk toast what they say to describe something that's bland? It's like even the most bland of things in this life, spurs the most extreme of responses. So I don't really know how to be. But yeah, I'm trying to get my appetite back. For the pray part, IDK. I mean, I even, despite my criticisms of organized religion and churches, I still pray. I still believe in God to a degree. I still talk to someone when I'm screaming at the sky. I just don't think my belief systems are organized enough to fall into organized religion. So I don't live by any stringent rules of particular faith on this earth, but I still have a vague level of faith, and I don't always know how to how to define it. But it is fair to say that you definitely lean on that more when you're going through something, trying to find reason, you know, or process something that is, in the moment almost seems like I don't know how to stomach this if not for some bigger purpose, even though our grief absolutely does not need to have a purpose, nor does it. It's oftentimes just random and unfortunate. And for the love part, I think I just, spend time with people I love and try to find small pockets of joy in the day to day. The way I feel currently is like I'm just killing time in between remembering I had the wind knocked out of me. I was kind of explaining on Patreon that it's a little bit my first loss, the ectopic that was earlier, that was kind of like a weird combo of like medical trauma and shock and like alarm because, there was like a very I don't need to get into it. It's just, yeah, it was not pretty. It was just very like physical and something I didn't know a lot about. And the whole process, I just like didn't know what hit me. And at the time, had been trying for a while. This was before I even had considered IVF. This was a type of sorrow rooted in my shock. There was a there was an emotional response grounded in the actual like medical experience itself and how alarming it was once, the bleeding and stuff. And it was kind of this grief more grounded in this vast uncertainty. The not knowing what, if it would ever happen, not knowing what I was missing out on, not really being prepared for what had happened. It was like a type of grief that was so vast it touched everything I did, but it was more grounded in longing. And I would say this is a bit different, and everybody's different in how they process, and no one can define or suggest how you should feel about your own loss based on how much time it's been, how long you were, if you have a kid, if you don't have one yet, if a number of losses, whatever it is. Like, I think everybody, depending on their vantage point, is going to have a different experience with loss. And if I may articulate mine in terms of how this feels differently, it's almost like Teddy is so indispensable to my life. Like, I'm not interested in a world where Teddy doesn't exist. Him being a product of something so random and actually getting here, it's just now so a miracle to me because at this point I've been pregnant 4 times. I have 1 living child. And like I said, loss has like comes in different forms. And one of those was a chemical pregnancy that felt more like a blip on the radar. But if that had been my first and I'd been trying for so long and I finally got that positive, I would have been like, it would have felt earth shattering. But anyway, yeah, I think that just understanding the experience more deeply of having a kid you care so much about, I think that loss, it takes on a different meaning in that you just can't help but wonder who this person would have been. You can't help but feel sad that you don't get to know them. In the tougher moments, and I think that feeling of like, who was she? Will I ever get to know her? And thinking of her in the context of somebody I would love so deeply like Teddy, it's like that the depth of that feeling of loss is so it's hard for me to articulate how it just cuts deep. It feels like, yeah, an empty hole with the depth of my other child, but one that'll never be filled. And quite frankly, it's too hard to explore. Every time I try to explore the depths of this gaping abyss, my submersible near explodes. It's too much for me right now. And I bring up a submersible a lot. That's just not a word I knew before, whatever, 2 years ago. And when it comes to exploring something deep, it just always feels like the right word to be using. Anyway, so yeah, I've got a couple things coming up that are, good things, fun things. I'm going to, so my parents are in Italy right now. They're on like a month-long trip. And whenever, like, I don't always process trying times the best. I think I joked on the podcast that I recorded yesterday, but will come out later this week. Kelly and I joked that we kind of like lash out, or like when something happens. I mean, I planned a multi-city tour and DIY, 10 Taylor Swift costumes, and just like left and went off and danced with you guys and healed with the Beths. Obviously that's not really in the cards, though we are having a track 5 that should be announced by now on July 19th in Chicago. It's our annual residency, which is always so much fun. If you want tickets, go to BeThereIn5.com/live-shows. It is kind of interesting how it's almost like the greater depth of thing you're trying to like avoid or distract yourself from, like the more shallow my recourse is. The trope of, cutting bangs or getting a different hairstyle or whatever, changing something about you post breakup. And what I joked about with stop eating and then pray to fall out of love. I just like, whenever I'd get broken up with or something, that was like it wasn't really about me. I think I wanted to like show up somewhere looking like hotter and better than ever and show that person like what they're missing. And unfortunately, in my, high school and college years, I equated that with weight. But what's interesting is like, so I had a hair appointment in between the most harrowing, not liminal space, but harrowing sense of purgatory I've ever had, perhaps, is in between the time I found out and had surgery, had to get it scheduled at DNC because it's called a missed miscarriage. And like, I had a hair appointment in between that time, and I was like inconsolable on the floor, but somehow like I still went to my hair appointment. I didn't like, I needed to physically change something. I don't know if that's about regaining a sense of control. I don't know if that's about not reminding myself of my hair color when I was excited to be pregnant. I don't know what it is, but it is kind of funny how that, even if for a moment, makes you feel a little bit better, whether it's grieving post breakup or otherwise. I also went and got my face lasered several days after. And what's interesting is that both things involve two women I've known for a long time, Natalie, who's done my hair, and Jessica at Innovative Med Spa. And they're women I've known for a while. And like, as weird as it sounds, going to do some like surface level treatment and just getting to like sit and talk with other women who like are understanding and who gave me like space to share, which is, I don't know, like meant a lot to me. It's just, the supportive, it's kind of interesting because it's almost like I avoid phone calls and stuff right now, because if somebody asks me how I'm doing, I'll get upset and then I have trouble coming back from it. And I'm trying to, carry on and not always get myself in like an emotional pit. But something about kind of, just going places and being able to exist in what a weird phase this is and talk a little bit about it, but not extensively. So other than, burning my face off and doing my hair, the thing I did during that purgatory while getting my hair done was tried to find a flight on points to go meet my parents. They're in Italy. They went to Ireland and then Italy just for like a month or so for vacation. They're both retired, and on occasion they'll go on excursions. I always try to tag along. I went on their last one in 2022 when we recorded live from the Tuscan countryside, breaking the news of the soft swinging scandal when it was just like a TikTok scandal with kind of nobodies. And here we are now in season 2 of Secret Lives. I knew it was going to be important. I knew it was going to inform culture. But yeah, I was supposed to go initially. I was actually going to go to Ireland because I've never been and we're Irish and wanted to check out the scene. Then I got pregnant and I know better than, not that other people can't if you have healthy pregnancies and stuff, like do what you like what you do. I've had too much first trimester anxiety and trauma to leave the country, and thank God I didn't because of this very situation. I just don't know how it's handled elsewhere. I'm too nervous to leave the state in the first trimester, much less the country. But yeah, so then I knew they would, probably come try to fly to me, or I just knew they would feel very at a loss for what to do when I called them and told them what had happened. So instead I told them obviously, and I was like, and I think I'm gonna just hop over there for a long weekend, go meet you guys in Orvieto, which is a town in Umbria that's kind of a medieval walled town. It's really cute. We went a few years ago, just for the day. And it's funny because it's where Vanderpump Villa is. Villa Rosa or Castello Rosato. That's not a real thing. They rented out and rebranded a hotel that Lisa Vanderpump does not own, which is in the area. And yeah, so I found, I found a ticket on points. Points aren't what they used to be, gang. My God, I swear when I got married over here, we got business class seats for I want to say under 60,000 points each. Now they're all $295. I'm like, who has these kind of points? But it's still really economical because that equates to roughly $3,000. Then a business class lay down seat is $6,000. Anyways, I found a flight there that was 150,000 points, which I have from my business credit cards. But the kicker was, I think the reason was they were on desirable flights. And there was 2 options between layovers that were an hour and 9 minutes and 54 minutes. So that should be interesting. But I'm also flying from New York. Oh yeah, that's the other thing I'm doing. So tomorrow morning I'm going to New York because Amazon Music so kindly offered to feature Be There in 5 on a billboard in Times Square from the 16th to the 22nd. So it's supposed to be already there. But we're going to go Tuesday. And I don't know if I want to go during the day or at night, but Courtney and I are just going to go real quick and see if we can't catch it. I mean, that's cool, right? It's one of those weird things where yeah, on the one hand, it's I have to see this, what a pinch me moment. But on the other hand, I just feel so blah. It's just, I don't think the highest of highs could pull me out of this low. It's, per Nora and I's conversation, highs and lows. I am a walking red flag talking about highs and lows, just as I think captions about highs and lows and vows about what highs and lows are walking red flags. Means you're not well, and that is true for me. But yeah, it's always hard navigating stuff like that because it's of course I'm excited to go see my parents in Italy. I love going there. Of course, this billboard's so. Is that what it's called? A billboard? Yeah, right. All I can think of is Billboard Dad. Hey, I'll be Billboard Mom. What a thrill. Yeah, and I know I sound immensely annoying and privileged. And, what self-employment's a weird thing where you kind of forget at baseline that you're so incredibly lucky and privileged to be able to work anywhere and do what you want. And I am incredibly grateful in times like these that allows me flexibility to go elsewhere. For the way self-employment absolutely destroys me in taxes, it makes up for in flexibility, that's for sure. If you don't mind, I'm going to try to not over caveat the ways that I might be sounding unrelatable or annoying or out of touch, because I know that's the metric we're all judged against. But I'm just trying to put one foot in front of the other. And my reality right now is I want to go see my parents and they happen to be overseas. I got a lot of points and I have a really cool work opportunity to go see my podcast thumbnail in Times Square, which is my face, yes, but it's a much better looking version of me from 2021, looking off into the distance, holding a wine glass in a mock neck sequin turtleneck. But yeah, I guess when I think about all these things thematically, I'm I think I feel such a loss of control. And I think I was so surprised, especially surprised that the baby passed and while I was carrying it and I had no idea. And you're almost pregnancy has a lot to do with intuition. And, I always would, every time I had a hunch because I would have crazy dreams and even if you're not like connected, I mean, let's be honest. Even when Teddy came out of me, I was like, who is this stranger? This is a baby I just met. That type of connection takes a while. But just in terms of like being so physically, biologically aware of what's going on in your body, and especially when you don't feel well, like the first trimester was so awful and I was so sick that the only thing I could do was dream and attach and, imagine what this what the end of this means would be, because when you're suffering, it's hard to make it seem worth it. Thankfully now I have, a kid that's proven to me that phase is worth it, to the point where I forget how awful it was until it happened again. I'm like, why am I doing this again? But I think biology somehow makes you like it. Men in Black erases your brain of what pregnancy and childbirth is like the first time of, you know, Mother Nature, the pronatalist she is. I think, doing things like my hair burning off my face or whatever is like an attempt to regain some control. I've made some weird purchases online that are far too expensive that I'm going to need to return. I don't know if that's me trying to maintain control. And likewise, I'm having a high level of anxiety about leaving. It's almost like when the odds aren't in your favor. Like at this point with the topic of, pregnancy, childbirth, fertility, whatever, I have like a handful of instances where like the rarest thing happens to me, or the thing I'm told won't happen or is least likely to happen happens. And when you lose faith in probability, and when, the baby's gone without me even knowing while I'm carrying it, and I've lost faith in my gut, I feel an even greater loss of control in terms of feeling like anything catastrophic could happen at any time, and wondering if it's a bad idea to go off and try to heal and do something for myself, or if I should hold on as tightly as I can to some semblance of control and stay right here as close to my son as possible. I'm so nervous and anxious about leaving my family, my husband and my son. But at the same time, my husband's like, knows me well enough to know, like, I think it would be good if you got out and felt like yourself, go to New York with Courtney, at least go to the one spot and that's domestic. And if you're feeling too anxious, I can always turn around. So as of now, I'm kind of iffy on if I'll actually go overseas. I don't know why the idea. I don't know if it's the 54-minute layover. I don't know if it's not being with the kid that I do have. I don't know if I'm just feeling like selfish or something. I don't know. But I think sometimes these are the times when it's okay to be selfish because of the way this process kind of disproportionately affects yourself. And I don't know if this is appropriate to bring up, but there's also, as of now, it hasn't been confirmed, so I won't air this later unless it has been, but there's a very famous blogger whose son allegedly drowned in their pool. And when I tell you, I cannot stop thinking about this, and I am like absolutely gutted. I mean, it would be sad for anyone anywhere, but I can't explain. Everything I see, hear, read about it, I'm like so concerned by how social media has publicly responded and like made it into a content farm. But I also believe people that they're like so horrified, gutted, and just like aghast by this, because I think any example, especially when you see people and their kids and how much, like you have a parasocial familiarity with them, and then hear something that happens so fast and is such an accident, and that even though you would never like point fingers or, place blame or whatever, like this stuff happens, accidents do happen. It just like scares the shit out of you for how hyper aware you need to be all the time, to prevent things like this, even though, again, like I'm not blaming anybody. Like the unfortunate reality is like accidents do happen. I don't have a lot of details, but like, I don't know if anybody else is just like, her name's Emily Kaiser. And I just like cannot stop thinking about it. And I think it's like, yeah, that's making me incredibly anxious too, just in terms of, wow, things can change so fast. And, I've experienced that in a moment's notice, everything kind of whiplash changing and to a different degree. And I think I just have so much empathy, and I simply don't know how I'd carry on. And I feel for that family so much. So anyways, I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I'm going to try to get myself to New York. I have an early flight. I think that'll be fine. I love going to New York. We're staying at the Greenwich Hotel, which I haven't stayed at before. Especially if I'm going to New York for like a night or two, I like to try out a different bougie hotel. My favorite hotel in New York is still Phuket's. For like one fancy singular night, I also do like the Carlisle. But I've heard great things about the Greenwich Hotel. It's like a repurposed farmhouse or something. I don't know. Treat yourself 2025. That's probably what I'll be doing the rest of the year, obnoxiously and regretfully, is spending too much money on things I never needed as I continue to lash out to try to process my feelings that I should just process like a normal, healthy person in therapy or in a journal. But instead, I do it by changing my physical appearance and lashing out on the internet, forcing you guys to listen to it. I'm so sorry. This is not more jolly, but it's where I'm at. I promise things will improve as time goes on. All right, you guys, I'll catch you tomorrow. Bye. Okay, I made it to New York. It is Wednesday morning, and I don't know why I have the urge to tell you, Courtney and I saw Brooke Shields. Every time I'm with Courtney, I see some random celebrity. And we were in the West Village and going to a restaurant because I love their beef carpaccio. And I'm 99% sure because I kept seeing her going up and down this stoop that she lives like right next to it. That's not what I'm here to talk about. But yes, I made it to New York. Yesterday was okay. I hadn't seen Courtney since everything. So when we sat down in the courtyard and chatted, I cried then, but I managed to keep it together most of the day otherwise until I came home at the end of the night. Yeah, the crying in public is what I need to work on because it's uncomfortable. Really hoping I can keep it together on the plane. I don't like being sniffly on a plane. No, neither does anybody around you. Okay, so yesterday was very cool. I got to New York. Courtney had a good chat in the courtyard while we waited for our rooms to get ready. And then we met my editor, Sally, from St. Martin's for dinner to catch up. Love her. And then we went back to the hotel and I changed into my sequin peplum black mock turtleneck and then went to Times Square to see if I could see my name in lights. Times Square is stressful. It's very crowded. It took us a minute to find where it was. Then we had to wait for a while for it to cycle through. Sometimes it's twice an hour. Sometimes it's 3 times an hour. If you blink, you'll miss it. So I decided to do, who doesn't love an edging exercise on the internet? And I just showed a bunch of videos of us waiting and waiting. And I think because, I don't know if you follow Jackie Schimmel. She's on the pod several years ago. She is so funny. And we have, our sons are a similar age. And I love following along with her life. Anyways, she had a very funny / unfortunate incident last year where she was supposed to get a Billboard. And for some reason it didn't air. But she had brought drinks to Times Square and invited podcast listeners and friends, I think, to come look for it. And it didn't happen. But it made for a funny video. So I definitely went in skeptical, not knowing how this works or if sometimes the rotation's off or whatever. So I had my expectations managed, but we ended up seeing it and it really was cool. It's one of those things where it's up there for 0.5 seconds. So you can't really take it in. But, coming home and then looking at the footage, I think I was able to process and absorb it a bit more. That's really fucking cool. I hadn't even been to New York until I was in late high school. And even then I mostly spent all my time on Canal Street, just trying to get, sunglasses with a double CC, like Elsie, on Laguna Beach at the time, or famously Breakfast at Tiffany's necklace. I don't know. New York's such a part of my life and identity as an adult and a place I go all the time and I love. And honestly, I always thought I'd move back to when I left it the first time. But yeah, a younger version of me would have never seen that coming, obviously. And even this year version of me, it is weird being an independent podcast and not being with a network. You don't get a lot of perks, and because there's no negotiating and favoring happening with networks, their relationship with the podcatchers and distributors like Apple or Spotify or whatever. That also helps you get featured. And I've just often felt very lost in the shuffle. But that's by choice because of, some priorities I have for the things I want to remain under my control. Really, the theme of all of this is control. I've kind of just had to accept that this is a show I'm proud of. This is a listener base that I'm so fond of, that I value tremendously. And there might not ever really be awards or vanity metrics or anything anywhere telling me I did a good job. But stuff like this is just, it was really cool. It was really special. And I think the only hard thing was I wanted to stay out and go out and stuff. And Courtney was only there for a day and we haven't gone out in a while. But it's just so, it was one of those things where I felt the turbulence underneath of like, I feel like I'm going to burst into tears at any moment because high highs are weird when you're kind of traipsing through low lows. And I had first heard about the Billboard when I was pregnant. I was like, what a cool story. How fun. I'll have been pregnant with my daughter. So at least now I'll have something that I can say I did cool with her because, Teddy got to go to 3 Eras tours while he was in utero. Like he cares. He does love Shake It Off, though. That is a very kid friendly song. In ways, I think she wanted me to be kind of like Can't Stop the Feeling, but it didn't quite land. Me was a weird era, you guys. And somebody DM'd me saying, I think that if the Taylor Swift lover like me angle had taken off more, that she would have headed down a path like Katy Perry. And I was like, you shut your mouth when you're talking to me. How dare? Do you really think so? I mean, yes, I think that was an obvious, like, she was doing something more pop centric and more gimmicky. That was like kind of popular at the time. And who doesn't want to have like the ultimate wedding song? I'm sure, if from a commercial viability standpoint. But the irony is, she maybe didn't realize that Lover would be the wedding song for the ages, and she didn't really need a Trolls 3 song. Regardless, why did I bring that up? Wow, I have absolutely no idea. I've officially lost my train of thought. As far as my anxiety goes, I maybe slept an hour or two realistically last night. I stayed up making a list of all of the things because I'm kind of, I don't know if it's hormonal. I don't know what it is, but and again, I'm getting served algorithmically. I'm getting fed a lot of child loss content, and again, that's the type of content I'm sharing now. And it is interesting how I think that the content's like so important to put out to greet people where they're at, and I like to hear about what's going on in people's lives. But at a concentrated level, it kind of distorts your view of the world, and it like gave me like almost a panic attack last night about leaving Teddy, and I was like, I'm definitely not going to Europe. And I stayed up and I like made a list, and I'm like, I'm just gonna send to Greg a list of my anxieties and he can just humor me, but so I can say that I did. And I listed out like, okay, uh the other like the gate, the gate on the deck, sometimes it doesn't catch right. I put another gate that you need to set in front of that gate, make sure, and then I was telling him like, make sure whoever's watching Teddy, like they know that this gate's there. And even though it's annoying to have to climb over it or to undo the gates always have to be up, make sure. And just, I don't know, all these other like minor things. Like Greg takes care of them all the time. And he knows that it's almost insulting to even like bring up stating the obvious. But like, I was just having this like knotted stomach anxiety of like, yeah, accidents can and will happen. And you just have to be so vigilant. But so I sent it to him this morning, and it was nice to indulge me and, check that he understood, even though I was stating the obvious. And yeah, I don't know. I woke up kind of early, was finishing Kelly and I's podcast, and I have to leave at the airport at like 1. And the spa at the Greenwich Hotel is like really beautiful. I feel like they told me that you can only use it if you're like a hotel guest. And whenever I hear that, I'm like, ooh, the only opportunity I have to like really see it is when I'm staying here. And so I went down and it was lovely. I didn't get a treatment. I like a nice massage, but I like it to be under $200, if I'm being honest. Sometimes resort or hotel massages that it's like 50 minutes, not even the full 60 for over 400. I'm like, nah. The opportunity cost just doesn't feel worth it for a fleeting experience. So I just like use the pool and the locker room. And the pool is a funny thing because I love pool. The pool is a funny thing because I don't indoor swim like ever unless I am pregnant. Floating was the only way I survived when I was having Teddy. And I loved going to the pool because I was in so much pain and so scared and struggling so much at the end of my 3rd trimester and recording my audiobook and stuff. I would go there after recording the audiobook and like fake swim laps, but really I just like float and cry, but nobody can see you crying in the pool. And this morning I was feeling very on edge and I went and cried in the spa pool. And I was like, God, what a gift to be able to submerge yourself in water and not be able to distinguish tears from regular drips, which is kind of a depressing thing, I guess, to share with you. But I went and had a good cry downstairs. I feel like I'm averaging more like 2 to 3 per day than like round the clock. I feel like my layover today is so short. I'm just going to do that thing where I conveniently assign a totally controllable earthly situation to fate to make a decision for me. And if I don't make the connection, my connection is in Dulles, I'll just see if my friend Hannah's home and go over to her house if I don't make it, and then probably go back to Chicago and be like, it's not meant to be. But if I make it, I'll get on the plane and hope for the best. And yeah, just again, I feel like this is probably so annoying to listen to, or it's not slash not interesting, but I guess what I'm trying to do is like not force anything in terms of like it's important to let yourself grieve, let yourself pause, let yourself take breaks. But I also know myself, and I will wallow, and I'll wallow in a way that doesn't always serve me. And I think I do need to be distracted to a degree. So this is me trying. This is me trying to just like carry on and, realizing the flip side of a high of seeing this billboard is just like being reminded 2 seconds later of the constant pit I have in my stomach. I don't know, but hopefully by pushing forward and moving through the highs and lows, somehow they'll split the difference. That's all I can really hope for at this point. So wish me luck. I'll let you know if I made my connection and made it to Italy. I've got to brush up on my Duolingo on the plane. So I'm not just saying Acqua del Rubinetto, which means tap water. I don't like to be charged for the bottle, so sue me. Okay, bye. Hi, me again. I made it. I barely. So it's currently Friday afternoon. So the last time I recorded Wednesday, recorded before I left, saw the Billboard Tuesday night, recorded Wednesday morning. Yeah, then my flight was out of Dulles at like 5:10 on Wednesday evening. I got here Thursday and I basically have slept for 2 days. Well, I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but there's something about I thought it was at my parents' house, but maybe it's just being in their presence where I feel permission to sleep for eternity. And like I feel guilty sleeping around everybody else, but like your parents want you well and want you to sleep, and they like will not wake me up. And I got there Thursday and kind of, it's like the first time seeing them since all this happened, and kind of not broke down, but just, yeah, definitely felt emotional kind of talking through things. And then like right after I got there, since I didn't sleep on the flight, I went to bed, and we're staying in this like Airbnb, like little villa. And it's really, I don't know, the windows, I just like left them open, bugs be damned. And liked, I don't know, enjoyed listening to like the sounds of the cars and the trash trucks and the church bells. I always think of my roommate in Switzerland, Emily. We loved that we could hear the church bells outside the windows. There's something so reassuring about such an audible notation of the passage of time in such a grand manner. It's so interesting to think that those ones like served as people's like core ability to tell time, probably, Yes, windows open and the air was chilly, and I was under blankets, and I just like slept like a baby. The day I got there Thursday, I slept, I don't even know, like, because I got to Rome at probably 8 a.m. And then last time I was in Umbria, I had this wonderful driver named Alberto. I think if you're ever there, you can look him up under Umbria chauffeur. And it wasn't a cheap airport transfer, but, sometimes it's worth it just to get the private car transfer than to do trains, planes, and automobiles. I simply wasn't in the mood for the Italian train system. And it was like an hour, 45 minutes from Rome to Orvieto. And it's so hard to be in Rome and not go like all the places, like you're just a stone's throw from so many cool things. But I went straight to Orvieto and probably slept. Oh yeah, I fell asleep after I got there, maybe at like noon, and woke up, and I honestly thought it was like 2. I was going to take a couple hour nap, so I didn't, because you kind of mess up jet lag doing that. But I slept till 6 p.m. I was like, oh great. And then I went to dinner with my mom. It was rainy, which was kind of cool because like the town square, like the main Duomo in Orvieto, I mean, anywhere there's a Duomo, it's always like pretty crowded. But it was like drizzly, and there was not a soul there. It was kind of spooky and cool. We roamed around and just looked at menus till I found something that struck me. And you know how I have weird food allergies, but they're like, it's oral allergy syndrome. So I'm not allergic to the actual fruit. I'm allergic to like where it's grown. If it's cooked or processed, I'm fine. If you also get itchy eating fruits and vegetables or some tree nuts or things with pits and cores, look up oral allergy syndrome. You probably have it. But people won't believe you because sometimes you can eat stuff and sometimes you can't. Regardless, I can almost always eat anything raw in Europe. And this is, I think, part of my draw to vacationing there more than other places. But it's something I discovered when I studied abroad, and I bit into an apple for the first time since I was a kid. And I was like, oh my God. So we found a restaurant that I saw prosciutto and melon, I melone, on the menu. And I just wanted some melon because I don't really eat melon in the States. It was delicious. My mom and I's vibe is sharing small plates. So we just shared a few things here and there. And in Umbria, a lot of their meat is I don't know if it's the style in which it's marinated or cooked, or maybe it's the type of cow, but it's like cingale beef. We had cingale beef carpaccio. We had prosciutto I melone, a lovely caprese. We love a carafe of house wine. It's so affordable here, you guys. I don't know if I explained the reason we go to Umbria. This is our second time here, as a family. Well, this time my siblings aren't here, but it's kind of a more affordable and just as beautiful Tuscany, in my opinion. There's a lot of really cool medieval towns, Etruscan historical sites, sprawling vineyards. Last time we stayed near Lake Trasimeno, and we went to Montepulciano, we went to Orvieto, we went to Assisi, and we were only in Orvieto for the day, but thought it was really cute. And so my parents wanted to go back during this trip. But you can still kind of bop around. I mean, if you want to rent a car, go for it. I don't love driving cars. Well, I never do, but I don't even like when my spouse does, drives cars in other countries. I think it's just a little hard to get a hold of the rules of the road. Delete. I mean, my favorite in my heart, because it's where I got married and near where I studied abroad, is, Lake Como, Italian lakes, the northern lakes near Lake Lugano in Switzerland. I love that area. I love feeling small next to the grandness of the Alps. Kind of like how Nora describes how she feels in a Catholic church. She wants to be reminded of who's in charge. On my greatest vacations, when I feel at peace, I too like to be reminded of who's in charge, and I like to feel small. Trisha Yearwood did famously say, I hope you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. I feel smaller when I stand beside the mountains, which I mean that in a good way. But I love a water mountains combo. But if I were to be in the countryside, which is so nice too, I mean, I live in the city, I definitely like Umbria better than Tuscany. Tuscany is a bit overwhelming to me, and it's really expensive. And then you go to these little towns and these lesser known wineries, and it's so affordable. I mean, you can get, I haven't gotten a bottle of wine in a restaurant, maybe ever, for 10, 12, 15 euros. Full carafe, bottle, I think my mom and I got for 8 that night. And yeah, just the apps are 6 and 8 euros, and they're just they're in high volume, the highest quality. Everyone's so nice. The smaller the town, the less English people speak, obviously. I mean, as this is not their primary language, but just meaning in terms of not hey, speak better English, but in terms of the just ease of getting around. It definitely takes me a minute to get back in the swing of things. My Italian's so bad now, but I know enough to get around. And the more I'm there and the more I hear it, the more I kind of will pick up on things and remember them. And it's so funny because my parents think I'm so good at speaking Italian. I really am so objectively embarrassingly bad. But I think that when you have no familiarity with a language, it's so much harder than having taken at least a little bit of it to be able to to be able to do some basic commands, pleasantries, and light conjugations. But I always feel at ease here. I love it here. When I did my fertility thing and had to do a pretty extensive genetic test, for some reason, part of it was where your DNA is from, almost as if it was an ancestry thing. It came back that it was between 9 and 10% that my DNA was Northern Italian. And it said specifically outside Milan, which is the weirdest thing because I got married outside of Milan. I'm very, very drawn to that part of the world. It is where my soul is at rest. And I know every basic bitch in town feels like they love Paris or, France or Spain or Italy or whatever. Wherever they studied abroad, Florence. But I was that's so weird. And then I got an Ancestry subscription and dug and couldn't figure out where that was from. I'm mostly Irish and like German, French. Like my mom's family is from the like Alsace region, where you get Gewürztraminer. So I don't know if there was some Irish migration at some point to northern Italy or what, but anyways, I was just surprised. And maybe there's some part of my DNA that feels settled there. I don't really know. I think that's part of why I went, because it was kind of hard to get me there. My anxiety was like really, really high getting here. But now I'm kind of like, maybe I needed to sleep. I was having a lot of trouble sleeping at my house. I think I needed to get out of my house, and I was spiraling a bit. Like everything reminded me of being pregnant. I had like switched up a lot of my routine because of how I felt. And, I have a toddler and want to give him my full attention, and would feel frustrated when I was like so tired and sad. And I think that, you wake up all the time when you're pregnant, even early on, to like pee and or if you're sick. And then I just was having weird dreams and not sleeping well after the whole situation. So yeah, I feel a little bit better, and it might just be sleep oriented. It might be reasonable price points for alfresco dining. I mean, it doesn't take a lot to make me happy, at least for a moment. But yeah, so far so good. I have to say, what tempered my anxiety quite a bit on the flight, I don't have a face, like, I don't have a face for friendliness in public. Like, people talk to my mom and sister everywhere they go, and they get in these long conversations. They have all these stories. It's not that I don't want to talk to people. It's just I don't feel like people talk to me, so I don't really pursue it. And anyway, but per the love part of this venture, I will say I was like comforted by the presence of strangers a couple times on this trip. So my flight from New York to DC, like everybody has status these days. So I got like a business class trip on points, both legs, but the caveat being there was the world's tiniest layover, which for an international flight's kind of risky. But I called United and they assured me I only needed 45 minutes for Dulles, which is not really true because there's your layover time, that's departure and arrival, but it doesn't count like taxiing, deplaning, boarding. And on that day, it said, it was like, on the United app, it said like, okay, you have a 39-minute. Then on the day in the United app, it was like they have some like connection guide when you have two legs of a flight. And it said that based on my gates, it would be a 39-minute connection from deplaning, as if I was the first off the plane, to when the next gate closed, so 39 minutes. And it was a 24-minute walk in between gates. So it was almost like everything had to go right. And I got on the plane and I couldn't. So you know how like everybody has status these days? I was group 1 and I was in first class, one of the like the first few rows. And part of that is if I'm going to have a tight connection, I put my stuff in the overhead bin. I'm one of the first off the plane. Great. But group 1, I got on the plane and there wasn't any overhead bin space in the plane. And obviously because of the connection, I want to only carry on. So at first they were like, we're going to have to, like, we'll just gate check this. It's kind of big anyways. And it was a smaller plane. I was like, no, you can't, please. And so I sat on my bag and pushed down the like extender thing and at least got it to a place where it could go in an overhead bin. But then I didn't make the cut for the front of the plane. So I had to put my bag like 15 rows back. So it was essentially like the point of me being toward the front was kind of lost, because I would have to basically wait till every half the plane got off, which when I'm dealing with this tight of a connection was just like, oh God, this is going to be stressful. Anyways, so I sit down and I got like a reminder on my phone for my 12-week appointment. I just forgot to take off my calendar. Because you know how once you have your first appointment, then you like schedule everything out, like because appointments are so hard to come by. So depending on how high risk you are, I think I had like a 12, a 16, a 20, so on and so forth. And I think that there's just a part of me that still can't get over how, like I said, I think I said this already, close I was to that alleged safe zone. Now I know it's not really a safe zone. It's just like a marker for oftentimes, miscarriages happen before then. I'm just like, God, I don't know. And I was really looking forward to getting to that point just to have a little less anxiety. And I don't know, these are the things I can't control. And this is why I feel like I'm still somewhat hormonal. The doctor did tell me it would probably take me a good like 6 weeks to feel normal. But yeah, I saw that notification and I just started crying and then like was having trouble stopping because I think I was really stressed about the connection and I was sad about my appointment and I just didn't feel like crying on a plane. It's so obvious when you're crying on a plane. And the man next to me, I don't know, he's just a friendly guy in his 50s, I would guess. But I could see him kind of like looking over and he could tell I was upset. And I think he thought it was because my bag didn't fit in the overhead bin. Because I was telling the flight attendant, like, I have a really tight connection. Is there any way I could like fit it up here? Blah, blah, blah. Which I normally am not a person that like causes a scene, pushes. It wasn't a scene. I was just like politely asking like if we could shuffle around anything, coats in the overhead bin. And were you born yesterday? For the love of God, don't put your coat in the overhead bin. And anyway, so what do you think he thought it was because my bag didn't fit in the overhead bin? So he like gets up and starts looking around to try to like figure out a place for my bag. He comes back. He's like, I'm so sorry. Like mine has to go back there too. Like it's so frustrating. Oh, and I was like, oh no, really? Like it's okay. Not a big deal. And then I just, you get in your thoughts. I'd like probably cried harder for some reason. I just like sometimes once I get upset, it's hard for me to stop, especially if I'm tired because I did not sleep much the night before. And anyways, he starts like mapping out my layover and he gets out a map of Dulles on his phone. He's like, okay, tell me the gates. And I guess he must live in DC. And I was just kind of being like awkward and quiet and like polite, but I'm like snotty and I'm just trying to like stop crying and I don't want to, I'm just trying to go unnoticed, I think. But I think he thought I was emotional about the overhead bin and the connection. So he asked me my gates. He shows me where I'm going. He explains in great detail, like where I need to go, where the people movers are. I need to go up this escalator, but not this one. And he's like, it's just being so kind. And I think worried that I was so upset. And which is so kind when you think about it. Like you could have easily, even though it's not what it was about, I mean, it was compounded, sure, but he could have very easily been so dismissive and annoyed and like this emotional girl because a connection she elected for was too short and her bag's 15 rows back, like relax. But anyway, I thanked him for like the directions and stuff and he kept like looking at the time. And then when we landed, he's like, okay, we're a little early. I think we're okay. Then we taxied for a long time. And when we got there, he like right when the ding went off that you could stand when we were at the gate, he like bolts back and gets his bag and my bag and like moves through the crowd somehow to bring it up like right on time. I was like, thank you so much. I was kind of like beside myself at the kindness of this random man. And it wasn't creepy. It was just like, he was a good guy that like just had a woman upset next to him. And I think just like wanted to help. And that's just, I just don't come across that very often. It's not my first rodeo crying on a plane. People are more likely to leave you alone. And most of the time I want to be left alone. And if someone kept asking me if I'm okay, I'd be annoyed. But I actually think this was an interesting scenario where like I kind of appreciated the help and needed it, but would never have asked and didn't want to be a bother. And so he gets my bag and he tells me again, like exactly where to go, blah, blah, blah. So then I bolt, because I'm running behind schedule. And I just don't know. Like I've had planes wait for me. I've had planes not wait for me. This is a big international, like long haul flight. Like I don't know. I like really didn't think I was going to make it. I was on like opposite corners of Dulles and had to take a tram or like whatever to get to where I was going. Then I was at the farthest end and it was a very long, sweaty venture. And meanwhile, I do have 2 very heavy bags and Base used to sponsor this podcast. They don't anymore. So I feel more comfortable saying this now. Listen, the weekender bag is amazing because of how much stuff it holds. That's what I always sold to. That's what I believe in. I have 2 of them. I've bought them. I like them. I use them. The thing about a bag that is designed to hold so much stuff is that it is that it is, if you stuff it to the brim, it is so heavy. It's incalculable. Like it is so hard on your arms, on your shoulders. It is impossible to carry. Even like, for the love of God, why do airports have carpet and not hard floors? Like it becomes impossible to roll a rollerboard with this weekender on top of it because it makes it too damn heavy. And I just knew better than to take a weekender, but I just wasn't, I don't know. I didn't, I just, that's what I packed. And yeah, my luggage was extraordinarily heavy and not super mobile. And I was just kind of like very hot and moving slow. But regardless, I got probably like halfway, and then running up behind me comes this man. And I think I must have been about to take a wrong turn or something. And he was kind of like tracking me. And then he like sped walked me to the right place, down an escalator, to this, whatever, the train or tram to the other terminal. I'm like, that's where he left me now. And as we were going down this long escalator, I was like, sir, first of all, I'm Kate. Like, thank you so much. It's nice, so nice to meet you. His name was Travis. And I was like, I'm not upset because of the overhead bins. I actually I had a miscarriage last week and I'm just having a hard time. And, the stress of this layover, I just, I'm going to go see my parents and I really want to see them. And I just kind of was like, I'm so sorry for being upset and you didn't have to help me, but like, I so appreciate it. And I think he was kind of like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so sorry for your loss. And he's like, I'm so glad you're going to see your parents. And we just had like a nice little exchange. And then he sent me off on the train and I have no idea who he is, where he's from, what he did, why he helped me. Other than like, yeah, I think he was just worried about a stranger and he knew a lot about the airport. And I just was very moved by the kindness of him. Anyway, so then I ran and I actually made like weirdly good time, like right as we were boarding. And right when I got there, I was like huffing and puffing. Somebody in the cutest pink jumpsuit that I noticed when I was sitting there turned around and goes, "Are you Kate Kennedy?" Which is so sweet. It's just, I love meeting Beth in the wild. And then she showed me, she was like, she had just been listening to my podcast with Nora and her name was Ellie and she was on a trip with her mom. And shout out to Ellie if you're out there. She was like so sweet and it was just fun to get to talk to her even for a moment. She was a few pods over and I didn't get to say bye when we got to Rome, and I meant to. So I wanted to say hi and sorry if you're out there listening, one. But two, I don't know why, but like my anxiety levels were through the roof to get on those flights and to make the connection and to just like leave the country. And like, now I'm glad I'm here, but it's like, there are just times when you cannot disentangle your anxiety from your intuition. And like, I think something I'm kind of like still reeling from is like the failure of my intuition from this whole thing. And I'm not knowing if I should like listen to my anxiety. I'm not knowing what's like hormonal and situationally driven versus what's real. And I just gone back and forth on if I should go. And something about the kindness of that man, Travis, and meeting such a nice person, Beth, right before I got on the plane, who was sitting near me. I just like felt, I don't know, I felt better. I felt like, okay, once I got on the long haul flight, I felt like I at least knew somebody on the plane, and that may, I don't know, put me at ease. Like I said earlier, this episode is brought to you by Amika. They are an exclusive sponsor. We love them for supporting Be There in 5 and sponsoring full episodes, right, Teddy? I and Kelly are, as we talked about last episode, are obsessed with the Forget Frizz Anti-Frizz shampoo and conditioner. It's the only product you need for hydrated, frizz-free hair days. I don't know if you guys live in a humid climate, but it literally smooths frizz for 72 hours and locks in 3.4x more hydration. We love the clinical studies that they don't have to do, honey. Its heat-activated treatment spray protects against humidity, reduces frizz, flyaways, and static, up to 450 degrees of heat protection, and reduces frizz by up to 74% for up to 72 hours in high humidity. That's insane in terms of taming frizz and improving manageability. The mayflies have nothing on my frizz-free hair. Okay, go get it. The rules of smoothing frizz are simple and finite. Lock in moisture and lock out frizz for a salon-perfect blowout with new Frizz Me Not Hydrating Anti-Frizz Treatment and Forget Frizz Anti-Frizz Shampoo and Conditioner. The result is a glossy, sleek blowout like you just left the salon with no appointment required. I love Frizz Me Not. I love the soul food conditioning treatment. I am on a trip and the past 8 days, my hair has lived on 4 travel items. Perk Up Dry Shampoo, Perk Up Plus that you use for extended clean between blowouts, Soul Food Nourishing Mask, and Undone Texture Spray. Thank you, buddy. But whether you relate to needing to be frizz-free or not, or wanting to smooth your hair in a humid climate, They have 11 collections to ensure there are options for all hair types, textures, and styles. Amika means friend, and that includes being a friend to the planet and our community. It is B Corp certified, and they use up to 90% PCR post-consumer plastics in their packaging. I am so thankful to Amika for the partnership, and also grateful that the Beths have been so supportive and loving Amika too. Their products are truly the best, and if you haven't tried any yet, check out loveamika.com/BeThereIn5 for my favorites. And for May, they are giving my listeners a one-time use code for 15% off your first order through the end of May. Just go to loveamika.com/BeThereIn5 and use code BeThereIn5 at checkout. That's loveamika.com/BeThereIn5, code BeThereIn5 to get 15% off your first order. The rules of smoothing frizz are simple and finite. Lock in moisture and lock out frizz for a salon-perfect blowout with new Frizz Me Not Hydrating Anti-Frizz Treatment and Forget Frizz Anti-Frizz Shampoo and Conditioner. Yes, the result is a glossy, sleek blowout just like you just left the salon with no appointment required. So yeah, sorry if that was a boring update. So basically I met two nice people and slept for 2 whole days, and I ate food, and I already feel a little bit better. I think the thing with grief is it's not like, it's like you can't. I was listening to Tortured Poets on the way over. I have a very specific playlist for Tortured Poet songs. It's the ones I used to skip over more, but now I listen to it and I'm like, God, this is effing brilliant. And I was listening to The Bolter, and I was like, I'm kind of the Bolter, but from like my problems, my thoughts, my feelings, my worst fears. I think deep emotions is, even though I'm a person that's fairly comfortable being emotional, the ones that cut deepest, I bolt. And I was thinking about how I bolted from campus when the Virginia Tech shooting happened, and like everybody seemed to want to stay there and be amongst community, and like it like strengthened their attachment to Blacksburg where we lived, but like I couldn't be there. Like I had too much I don't know if I have location-based association that I need to like get past, or I don't know. I'm the bolter, and I don't know if that's healthy or not, but here I am, and here I'll stay till Tuesday. And so yeah, we don't have like a ton planned. We're just kind of roam the town, maybe go to a winery or two. There's a famous carbonara place. I love carbonara, and it's like €8, €10. I remember last time we went with my entire family, my husband, and a couple of my dad's friends, and I picked up the check, and it was 8 people had a giant main course and like appetizers and bottles of wine, and it was like maybe €120. And I was like, where am I? This is nuts. But yeah, we're going back there. It's called Mezzaluna, in case you're ever in Orvieto. Yeah, I'll report back if anything interesting happens. Thanks for being here. Oh, sorry. Hi. I guess I don't have too much of an update. My mom and I went to, so they've been traveling for a while, so sometimes I'll do stuff with my mom, sometimes with my dad. They need to rest too. And we went out to a winery. We took a taxi out to a winery called Madonna del Latte. I guess that means milk of the mother. And did a tasting. I only cried twice while I was there. Oh my God, I have so many problems. The owner, I guess his thing is he greets people with his family, and he has these 2 young daughters. And I think seeing sweet little, a baby girl, I just think, the world is your trigger. And that's the thing is I think sometimes I get a little people, I get frustrated when people reach out to me being like, you need to be better about trigger warning stuff that are going through things. And I should know better than anybody. And I get that. But also I think that every kid, every pregnant person, every stroller, everything you see, especially at first can be really upsetting. And I wrote about this in my book because I feel strongly that it's important people understand, it's just, if you feel like people get over and move past it quickly when they have a miscarriage, just because it's really uncomfortable to talk about. It's kind of darker and tougher to get into than maybe people are ready to talk about, and you kind of end up consoling the person you're speaking to. And I think sometimes it's a little bit embarrassing because the world will kind of qualify your grief or think about how long you were pregnant, or if there was a reason it happened, or it was unviable, it would never have been viable in the first place. Or, after a certain amount of time happens, if you kind of are acting normal, they just think you move on. But it's just not how it works because, I mean, you're kind of aligned with this ghost calendar that runs parallel to you trying to move forward with your grief while it perhaps gets worse at times as you know, factor time with what milestone you would have been at, how far along you would have been when your due date is. You see every friend that was pregnant at the same time as you, every kid that's roughly the same age yours would have been. You watch them grow up. I mean, it's not like you're inconsolable and can't handle it. It's always like on your mind. And I think at first it really is. And it definitely, I think, was especially hard before I had a kid. And that's the other thing I feel like guilty about is like, I know I'm so lucky to have Teddy. Like, is it greedy or something to like be so upset about this and want for more? And I don't know, but I'm trying not to like, scorekeep or to like surveil my own emotional response as if like I'm an outsider. I'm the one going through this on the inside and I, if anybody, should be easy on myself. But even expressing this to you, I feel kind of embarrassed. It's like, we get it, move on. But I think that, yeah, and in my book, I described it as feeling like somebody ordered a voodoo doll of me off of Etsy, and every stroller, every pregnant person, every baby, for a little while, like it feels like is designed to prick you right where it hurts. And of course it's not. And of course you shouldn't avoid going out into the world. And I don't think everybody who, is adjacent to the subject that triggers you like needs to tiptoe. I don't want that either. I only express this so people don't feel alone if everywhere they go it's just like one ping after another. I've been there and it's tough. And depending on how stable I am that day, I do or do not respond to it strongly. But yeah, so I don't know. I guess at this point it's just like trying to have more time pass. It's like, I think I described it earlier as like I'm just killing time in between, like remembering the wind was knocked out of me. Like I'm just trying to do small things to forget, if only for a moment, the pit in my stomach. And the drop is the very worst, right? Like I think when it like the pit comes in like the middle of a good moment, like it looking at a billboard or whatever, like knowing I'm doing this cool thing and going on vacation while like crying. It's just, I don't know. It's like I'm embarrassed that I can't compartmentalize and reframe and maintain perspective. But I think what happens is every hour, every day, as time goes on, you just hope the intervals get longer in between remembering the pits there. Not that you forget it, but I just think that to be able to like healthily move forward in life, you can't always live in that can't be your home base. And yeah, I do feel like after sleeping and eating and being with my parents and just having a change of scenery, it feels like a little more time is passing in between me feeling like I want to pass out and wondering like what happened. But anyway, what else is going on? Oh, so I'm like so like funny about accepting favors or like, I don't know. I love meeting you guys in the wild, but like if ever someone reaches out to me and they're where I am or they want to do something, like I always get nervous accepting a favor or like I'm worried I'm going to disappoint somebody or like, I'm not exactly, and you like, I don't know, you never know if you're being catfished or not, whatever. So like sometimes when I'm somewhere and people reach out, it's like so sweet if they offer up something or to come to their restaurant or to do something. Like I'm so grateful, but I also am careful. I don't want to take advantage of anything or disappoint anybody or whatever. So when somebody offers something, I don't always engage. But when I was sitting at the winery, I came across a DM that said, like, I'm a longtime listener and I'm closer to your mom's age than yours. And I actually have a home in a nearby town to where we were. And where we were was just so specific that I was like, yeah, Beth has a home near, like, that's so interesting. But I read the text to my mom because I was like, oh, she mentioned like she's closer to your age. How cool is that? Because I'm just always amazed at like the range of people that listen to this or that this means something to. It's just like really, really cool. And it means a lot to me. And anyway, I ended up responding and asking for some recommendations and mentioned that, yeah, it's a bit chicken or the egg. Like, can we get a reservation at this winery? And if so, like, can we even get there? Because I've been getting turned down by taxis when I WhatsApp them for my American number. But then, like, the winery will be like, oh, we'll find you a ride. And then they find the taxi that turned me down and said they were busy. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? But anyway, before I knew it, her name's Heather, and I need more info. I actually don't know much about her background or why she has a home here, other than I see online she has a travel company, does like art and photography retreats. I was like, before I knew it, she like had recommendations. And then she was like, you know what, my property manager, like, I bet he can drive you around, and let me see if I can make reservations at a winery or two, or lunch here. And if they don't have a reservation, maybe you can just have lunch in my garden. And I was just, I'm so overwhelmed with the generosity and kindness. And I don't know what I'm getting into, but tomorrow's my last day. I'm here with my parents. I feel like I always love whenever they can experience like how incredible like the listeners of this show are, how generous people can be, like just the kind of network out there. It's kind of astounding. And I don't know, maybe it makes up for me spilling my guts in personal life in book and podcast form, as I'm sure this job is weird for your daughter to have. And so I was like, you know what? Why not? Take a chance, make a change, break away from this walled town that we've kind of been in for several days. Like, let's go out and explore. And so, yeah, I was kind of like, you know what? Let's go for it. So that's what we're doing tomorrow. I'll report back. I've like never really done something like this. Somebody I don't know is picking us up and taking us places that I haven't been, and I'm pretty much parents along, and I just don't know what to expect. But I think I'm at a place where I'm up for an adventure, and it's my last day tomorrow, so hopefully it'll be fun. If it's not, I probably won't even air this, but okay, stay tuned. Oh my gosh, that was so beyond special. So I don't know. I always get nervous walking into things, like I don't know what to expect, or I'll disappoint someone or whatever. I think I might have said it earlier. I don't know. But sure enough, this lovely man named Giuseppe comes and picks us up from near our Airbnb, and we like the ultimate ride around the Italian countryside. It really is like interesting when you go to a town and you want to like see around, but it's a place you're not totally comfortable driving. It's just such an easier way to see a bunch of stuff is to drive. It's kind of like taking a double-decker bus, or like instead of go in all the sites and spend a ton of time there, I just want to see everything. And there's this one town I know my parents really wanted to go to. I was kind of discouraging of it because it's kind of a hike to get up there. It's like a kind of not a ghost town, but it's this like beautiful hilltop town that looks like a fortress. Like Umbria has a lot of like walled cities, just like that were trying to prevent invasion back in the day. The day. History lesson from Beth. And it's called Civita. That's how they would pronounce it in Italy. I called it Civita. Civita. Everything they say is so sing-song. Civita. 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 I don't remember. It's Civita. I always thought it was called Civita. There's my Italian. And you have to get there via drawbridge. It's like this drawbridge, basically. It's like, in my head, it was the parapet from the beginning of Fourth Wing. And thinking of me and my parents hiking up it, I was just like, absolutely not. In reality, it's a little more stable than that. But it's very uphill. And I don't know. I'm many things, but a hiker when I'm supposed to be vacating my life is not one. And so we weren't going to go. Anyways, this lovely Beth named Heather, I don't mean to reduce her to a Beth because she's so much more. She actually has a travel experience and retreat business called Casa Erica, and her house in Lubriano is called Casa Erica, which I think Erica is like some Italian translation of like the root word for Heather, which is her name. Her and her mom have these houses. They're like converted monasteries. I need more information. It was so cool, so beautiful. Anyways, first of all, we got to drive around and we got to see Civita, which my parents really wanted to see, but I was discouraging to hike up the drawbridge. And it's just very majestic and moving from afar, and I could tell they were really excited to see it. And it was just, that was special in and of itself, was just to have this majestic view kind of set back of this ancient city, and I wouldn't have known there was like a little setback place that you could view it from without having to like go in it. You know how like I don't know. I have a lot of rules when I travel. I don't climb up Duomos. If there's a famous like building or piece of architecture or monument that you want to see, you don't go in it and up it. You get as far away from it as you can so you can look at it. It's kind of like the beauty of Piazza Michelangelo in Florence versus going up inside the Duomo. It's like not only did you just volunteer to exercise, you're in the monument that you want to see the view of. So the view out of it isn't the view of the city because you're in the thing that makes the view. Anyway, so that was really special. And then we drove to her house for lunch. The person that drove us around is her property manager. And we met her lovely chef. Her name is Magda. And it was so much fun to talk to her. And she's so talented. My parents had never had steak tartare before. But one of my favorite dishes, we had like this pistachio ravioli. We had Prosecco. We had Orvieto de Classico, which is the local white wine that's there. And we just had like the most lovely afternoon at Garden. Like, and a very talented chef make us a meal. And it was just like beyond special. And this house in this garden is where Casa Erica has their retreats and stuff. I think they're photography retreats, art retreats. I think a lot of like women go on them, and apparently they're really fun if you want to look it up. But I think I just didn't know what to expect. And we walk through this like beautiful garden, and there's every flower ever. There's lemon and orange trees. And I'm just like, I think this is how Meghan Markle lives. Stateside. Like, this is my dream life. Sitting under a trellis or whatever, having some afternoon wine, lovely meal. It was truly, my parents were like, where are we and what is going on? I was like, I don't know, the power of the best. And I feel like weird sharing this with you guys because it's not like you were there and got to enjoy it. I guess I'm just expressing, I don't always, A, they're best in every corner of the world. And if you're in that corner of the world, to reach out to this one. And B, just, I think that on this trip when I was trying to heal, it was just like the third example of generosity of strangers that I kind of didn't know what the love part of my trip was, but I just felt, I don't know, very loved and appreciative of people that didn't need to be being nice to me, but really helped me feel better. And then, inside the house, it was really cool because it was like, there's this like little tiny town called Lubriano, and it overlooks Civita. And it was like a side view of this like, drawbridge thing leading up to this majestic town. And it was just like the most breathtaking view, and it blew my parents away. And then after we had a lunch in this garden with Magda, we just walked it back down to meet our ride because we were going to go to a vineyard, which is also lovely. And they had my favorite thing ever, which is sfuso, which means you basically bring a jug somewhere and they fill it up with wine. And oftentimes it doesn't have sulfites. I think this place did, but we gave like jugs of sfuso to everybody at my wedding up in Verona, and people like loved it. But then they would drink like a liter of it, and they'd be like, "You said it was hangover free," and I'm like, "I said it was sulfate free. It's different." Doesn't guarantee no hangover if you drink a jug of it, but it certainly is very much more headache-less than the other things. Anyway, when we were leaving lunch and going to the next place, my mom loves churches, and we were just like in the town square looking at the view, and my mom wanted to pop in real fast. And honestly, I had been kind of avoiding churches and religious places given the circumstances. I don't know why they make me sad. And last time I was in Italy in 2022 after my first loss, and it was like a month before I was going to start doing egg retrievals. And I don't know, I just felt like I think I want the Catholic Church to be the special place that it is for my mom, but I just feel so mad about so many of the things that, the biggest sexual abuse cover-up in the history of the world, but also just the incredibly unfavorable policies, beliefs that, ask women to spearhead their own subversion. And, obviously their stance on resolving miscarriages, on ectopic pregnancies, all the bullshit ads they've served me. And then they like openly even on their website, like they don't condone IVF. Like they don't believe that's a valid way to bring a person into the world. And I was like about to undergo this process, and I'm just like, screw, like even it's such a hard process on somebody and like that really wants a family. And it's just like a place you're supposed to go find peace and comfort this, institutionally against the circumstances you're in that make it hard for you to have a family and they want to prevent you from it altogether. It just feels messed up. And I just remember going to churches and like a CC or something. And I was just like, please, like, I don't know. I just remember saying a prayer like, this is a perfectly valid way to start my family. And I don't appreciate how you make women feel who believed in you, who supported you. I just remember being really mad. And I don't know, sometimes I just feel mad. But I think I realized that I didn't, okay, oh, I forgot to say this. And I wasn't sure I was going to say it because it's just like private, but details aside. So when I got my DNC, you can, the one thing that is, I think, helpful for women that experience losses, for some people it's closure. For others, I think it's important information to take with you for what might have contributed to the miscarriage. And I think, like you guys heard me on the losses we share on Patreon, I didn't feel responsible at all and like felt more level-headed about the ectopic. Like I knew it wasn't my fault. I wasn't going to play that game. But like I really spiraled this time into feeling like I did something into, like tracing the artifacts. Like I was going through every single thing I did the day they said the baby passed. I was like, I got a foot massage or something. I was like, surely it was a reflexology pressure point. Like I was going nuts. At one point I thought it was because I was drinking too much passion tea because apparently hibiscus in some places isn't considered good for, like literally shit that does not matter. This has ever happened to you. It is unequivocally not your fault. Like the vast majority of miscarriages are a result of a chromosomal abnormality, which is just like a copying error. It's like when your body goes to control C, control V, chromosomes, there's just an error. I mean, basically what I'm saying is as women age, like your eggs accumulate a certain level of damage over time, making it more likely that chromosomes won't copy properly, won't separate properly during fertilization, and that can lead to genetic abnormalities in pregnancies. And it's like your eggs stay in a pause state of development for decades from before birth until ovulation, and like their cellular machinery that like assigns and separates chromosomes during cell division like gets damaged. And I just say that because even though I'm having a hard time with it, like I do in my, I can intellectualize and understand that makes sense, and it's not my fault. It's not because of a foot massage. And I never want anybody to blame themselves either, regardless if you were able to get any like pathology or whatever. But yeah, when I was in Italy, like they told me that it would be like 4 or 5. So I went to Italy less than 2 weeks after my surgery. They told me it would be like 4 or 5 weeks before I'd get anything back. But then when I was there, I got it back. And I wasn't with Greg. And so it was kind of like a little bit weird trying to like process. But it did kind of like, when I found out there was like a genetic abnormality, I was like, I don't know, when I went into that church on like my last day, I just started crying. And I was like, I think I need like just have a God rest her soul moment, But I tried to say the best I could in the hospital, but like it just wasn't, it's sterile. It's not spiritual. And I don't even know what I think spiritually, but I think I did need to say a prayer after all. Anyways, so I also had a moment where I realized for a couple hours I like forgot. I don't know if I felt weird about that or grateful, but I think it was the first day, and I'm so grateful to Heather for this. She doesn't even know, I don't think, but like it was just the first day I had fun in a long time. And yeah, thanks to the thoughtful Beth for giving that to me, and to that town for feeling like a healing moment for me, a moment of a bit of closure. And what's weird is the day after that day I tagged Heather and was like, thank you. And I was talking about how this trip was meant a lot to me and whatever. And then she reposted mine and like said, and I didn't even mention that it was like healing. But she like mentioned in a story after I posted like that the town is from some Latin word for healing. And I was like, what are the odds of that? That I had that like unintentional moment, and that's a place known for where people go to heal. And maybe she knew I needed that. Maybe she didn't. Maybe it was a coincidence. I don't know. But it really was. And it meant a lot to me. And I'm sorry. It's like I've been blubbering this whole time, but I thought I'd share. So I have a little bit more information. I don't know if it makes me feel better, but it made me feel like better about it not being my fault. Though it's still hard and it still makes me feel sorry for her and wish that there was something I could have done. But, old eggs are gonna old eggs, I guess, to say something profound to end this day. All right, until next time. Not to do a total 180. I mean, I'm back in the state. So excited to see Greg and Teddy. I miss them terribly. I was gone for less than a week. I'm going around the world in 8 days. We got back Tuesday, and Wednesday morning we went straight to northern Michigan. Every year we do like a siblings trip, and there was this town we really liked called Northport last year that we're returning to. And when I was like, I'm very resistant to like beaches, just does not feel like the beach to me. The salt air is such a snob. But I will say last year I was like, oh, we're on like a soft white sand beach with minimal rocks. There's no salt, there's no sharks, there's no undertow riptide situation that scares the crap out of me. There's no waves. We're waterfront, the kids can play. I was just kind of like, okay, this is a much more family-friendly beach. So we went back this year. And, well, honestly, I'm here to talk about Taylor Swift selling her masters. But first, I will say, I don't mean to like over-complain about this because I said this on Instagram too. The mayfly, I am not really that familiar with mayflies. I'm from like mid-Atlantic. I don't feel like we had that many. My parents get some at their house, but whatever's happening at this house we rented, the mayflies are biblical. They are swarming and surrounding the house. You can't go outside with them in your head, your mouth, like everywhere. You can't eat. It's like not sanitary. They're just like it's not even, we're like at this expensive house on the water and we can't go outside. What the fuck is that? Does anybody experience this? I feel like I'm being gaslit by the owners because they're kind of like, oh, they're everywhere. It just is what it is. It's Michigan in late May, early June. But no, we went to town. We went to another beach. We went everywhere else. There's no mayflies. I think we're literally in like a hatching ecological site to the point where like there's this like ravine in the beach where it makes the beach unusable, running off from a river where there's like a tide pool on the beach and they're like all hatching there. We're like, do we build a dam? Like what? We're trying to figure out what to do because like it's kind of upsetting to like pay a lot for a place that you can't go outside, and then it's like you don't want to blame the owners, but it's also like this is nowhere on the listing that this is even a possibility. And I'm like, if you're in a part of a forest or a lagoon that makes this worse, like I think people need to be prepared for this because it's ruining our vacation. Anyways, just shout out to Mayfly Nation if you've ever been in this position. What a drag. But yeah, okay, so I didn't really have anything like new to say other than I made it back. Miss my baby. Miss my husband. Happy to be with them. Tight turnaround going straight here, but I wanted to still make vacation. I think, honestly, I'm better off from leaving town for a bit and just, I don't know. I think I was having trouble like processing and moving on because I was worried about like being so constantly upset and horizontal in front of Teddy. I wanted to have energy for him I just think I needed like, a couple long flights, some good combos with my parents, private lunch in a garden and a prayer, and then felt like it could just be a version of myself that had like really been able to be in my feelings instead of constantly avoiding them. So I'm glad I did that. It was great. And then big news today. Whenever you have TV, Taylor Swift regained ownership of her masters, which it's not news that surprised me. I think I said, not to be like, called it bitches, but on the podcast, it might have been a Kate Lila or something. It was last year. I was like, I'm 99% sure she already bought him back. Why wouldn't she? Like, if it's not necessarily about the money, it's about owning her work on principle. It's about owning her diaries, whatever. Like, especially a post-Eras tour, she had the valuation and then some, even though it's crazy to think that like work that should have already been yours, you're going to pay like 30% of your income to own. Like, I think that means that much to her. They were allegedly sold for $360 million, which they were sold for $300 million. That was Big Machine's entire catalog, not just her work. And they do have other artists like Lady A and Rascal Flatts and stuff. But anyway, I don't know if that report's true. I think, so happy for her. I know this means a lot to her. Huge win for her. I spent hours of content telling you, like, the whole Scooter Braun episode, like I've tried to really break down like why it's so important that she owns this IP, why she should have been offered them outright, why it was such like a bullshit power play move for Borchetta to sell him to Braun, and like to be treated like this petulant, whiny child who signed an unfavorable contract and like sucks to be you. I gave you an offer and you refused it. It was your choice not to buy your masters, but she was given like a terrible, like she could buy back one album for each additional album she produced for Big Machine. And it was like kind of not extorting her, but like creating unfavorable terms for her to stay at the label. And it was just like, why can't I own my life's work and pay you what they're worth? Instead, he let somebody else buy them for what they're worth with no strings to like, like hers to buy back her life's work for the same amount was only strings to manipulate her and make her kind of exert power over her and make her stay at this label when she didn't want to. But like then her enemy got to buy him for the price she could afford just because. Like, of course, it's maddening. It's offensive. It's like, yeah, I get why that was just so hurtful and a source. It was Female Rage the Musical before Female Rage the Musical existed. But it gave us My Tears Ricochet, so it's all not a wash. Is that the right phrase? I'm a little tired. I can go anywhere I want, just not home. Is something I really do right now. I'm like dreading going home because it's home just like reminds me of everything, and I just want to like bop around. Privileges of self-employment again. I know, guys, I'm insufferable. Am I sad we're not getting Rep TV? Listen, you guys, I think like the thing I'm not going to do anymore. I think that with every life experience, I'm like, you can't hurt me. I'm going to be a little bit more frank and honest. And I think the thing about the Swiftie fandom is that people love to perform to be perfect fans. A good Swiftie TM is endlessly supportive of Taylor. They never criticize her. They don't make jokes. They don't satirize. They just put her up on a pedestal and think the best of her intentions in a way that's not capitalistic, that's not purposeful, that's not, with a clear marketing angle or in her own best interest and not the fans, whatever. I often joke that it's a little culty, which it kind of is, quite frankly. But it's a cult I'm proud to be part of, obviously. And I just, I kind of online was like, this is a huge win for her, and I love this for her. It's a bit of a loss for us because when you're told to expect something, she said, I will be re-recording all of my albums. And yeah, I've had to re-buy music we already bought. That was asking a lot of her fans, and we did, and we hyped them up, and her albums made even more money than they did originally, and we had the best time fighting dragons with her. We really did. I've loved the Taylor's version releases in ways I didn't expect. But yeah, we were expecting something, and while I'm happy she got her masters back, I think it's fair to be like, oh man, but I wanted to see how she'd say Burton to this Taylor as a 36-year-old woman. So sue me. I wanted to, so it goes Renaissance. Reputation is a masterpiece to me. It is so specific to a time. It's an album about love. And depending on which way you look at it, I think half the songs are about falling in love with Joe, the delicates of it all. I think some of them are about an intermittent relationship that I'm not exactly sure who or where it was, but as just people have discussed, it's fairly gender agnostic. It's fairly about like hiding and mystery. And yeah, to this day, I'm like, I just question if it's a full Joe album or it's some stuff that was like in 1989 era bleeding into Rep. Who knows? But I was curious if that speculation would resuscitate. I was curious if it would stir up too many emotions because I don't think Joe's been over long enough for her to not like really. I mean, it would, if I don't know if the song Wommel's meant to be about Joe or Maddie or both. If we're not paternity testing, it doesn't matter. I'm a big Lommel fan right now. Love of my life. You shit tucked me under the table, talking rings and knocking cradles. I wish I could unrecall how we almost had it all. Dancing phantoms on the terrace, or they second-hand embarrassed that I can't get out of bed because something counterfeit is dead. Are you kidding me? That bridge, is that a bridge or just a verse? I don't know. It is. Whew. Takes me out. But I know she's like half being in love now and has been in a relationship for almost 2 years. But Joe was a big part of her life, and I think she at one point wanted to marry him. And I think that like, I always tell Greg, if we broke up, you would haunt me for eternity. Like I would think about you all the time. and I do think we have that person. Yeah, I don't know. I think that at a point, if you listen to So Long London, like she really did the most as he held on to his quiet resentment. And she stopped trying to make him laugh, stopped trying to drill the safe. Like, I think she put so much effort into that. I think she was so into it. And I think singing, body and soul. I hope Greg's sisters can hear me singing. I mean, like hiding in a closet because there's children running around fighting over cars. Anyway, I think it would have been really hard for her to resuscitate these songs, this era, because it's not like nostalgic. I feel like 2017 or Taylor is like kind of recent. Like, I don't know. That does not feel that long ago. Did it to you guys? Maybe because time stood still in the pandemic and like I just missed those years. But I think this would have been a weird era to resuscitate as if it was nostalgia when the subject of a lot of this ended more recently and is still such a public person that doesn't really have the established brand equity or public persona as much as like a John Mayer or Jake Gyllenhaal or Joe Jonas. We can be like, that was so long ago, blah, blah, blah. But I will say, when she shut it down in terms of the Dear John of it all, people did kind of leave him alone in ways that she did not shut down the Jake Gyllenhaal part. In fact, she made it worse by saying, I don't really think about their experience much on late night while she was wearing that very dizzying black and white print that I was told you should not wear on television. Otherwise, I would have worn my houndstooth on my book tour because it's really the only pattern I like because it's black and white in many cases, regardless. So I saw an interesting meme that was like, how crazy is it to think, in the letter she said she didn't feel it could be, she'd barely recorded a quarter of it. She didn't think it could be improved upon. And I'm kind of like, you know what? Yeah. Like, I think I wanted to rep TV so bad because I was so curious how it would be revived. And like the more bombastic early songs are ready for it. So I'm like, I don't know. It like works when she does the persona on tour, but it just doesn't feel very her now, not the era she's in. And it like requires a certain vibe. And I think she could have crushed it when she was really mad at the fandom, the But Daddy I Love Him era, the Who's Afraid of Little Old Me era, the like 6-month period where she was like, fuck all y'all, you're writing an open letter telling me who to date. I think she was pretty angry at that point, but now I just think she's taking a break. She ran away with us for the summer. Let's go upstate. And like, I want a break for her. I want peace for her. And yeah, I think Greg needs to go. I think I need to, it's my sister-in-law's birthday and they're going golfing and I'm going to help watch the kids. So I should probably get back to my duties. But my point is, I'm really happy for her. And I'm also like just like selfishly sad for some of us fans for like her bailing in the middle of a process that we were like hard sold to get on board for, or we spent duplicitous money on something just for her benefit, for her wealth, even though we benefited from the rollout and the vault tracks. Love, she made it worth it. But I think it's really annoying when people police your response to like a person who's, like a billionaire. She's a capitalist queen. She's fine. She thinks she's okay with some satirical memes here and there. People that just, again, like really wanted to let other songs have a renaissance. Up on the Roof with a School Called Crush, drinking beer out of plastic cups. Like, there's so many bangers on that album that weren't singles. She chose Look What You Made Me Do and Ready for It. Like, the back 9 of that album are everything to me and are still something I listen to. And I think while I'm grateful to be able to listen to the originals because I think they're the most pure art form, my curiosity will always kill me of how this all would have been redone. But that's okay. That's okay. I'm still a good Swiftie TM. Don't be mad. Don't bomb my reviews. I just want to stand up for the people that are like, yay, and oh man. And sometimes within our cult, we exercise a little bit of agency, a little bit of self-respect. She says wearing a Florida 3 exclamation marks t-shirt. Literally, I just bought this in a 3XL. I buy so much merch. Is that my child? Okay, gotta go. Thank you for listening to Beth a Week in the Life. I hope you enjoyed this. And as always, is you okay? Let me know your thoughts and I'll let you know mine. I'll be there in 5. Hi, I swear. What's going on?